you guys didn't know, I like basketball. And Raptors are the champions. They're my favorite team. I recently became a basketball fan like last year. So I picked the Raptors and the Raptors freaking won the championship. Go me. My name is Crystal and welcome back to my channel, and today I am going to be doing my June wrap up for you guys. I had an excellent reading month this past month. I read 8 books, well almost 9, which is pretty impressive for me because I never read that many books in a month. So I am so excited to tell you guys about what I read. In no particular order, I'm just gonna go through the stack that I have in front of me. I didn't feel like putting them in order that I read them, so. But the first book that I have here is Gideon the Ninth, and this is by Tam Samir, and this has become probably my favorite book that I read this year. Probably of all time in the last 5 years. I absolutely love this book. I've never read anything like this book before. It has all the elements that I love in a story all in one. It's fantasy, it's horror, it's science fiction, it's a little bit of everything you could possibly imagine packed into this book. It's funny, there's romance, there's literally everything in here. And there's diversity. The only issue that I had with this book was there was just a lot of characters, and not for nothing, each character had another name to go with that character, so it was a little hard to follow in that aspect. So if you are someone who is not a fantasy reader, an adult fantasy reader by any means, this book might not meet your expectations of it, and then you'll be like, what was everyone talking about? This book is not that great. So for my fantasy lovers out there, for the people that enjoy fantasy, love horror, adult fantasy and horror, then you're gonna enjoy this book, and science fiction obviously. You're gonna enjoy this book because you have already been introduced to those elements of a broader world. So Gideon the Ninth, I absolutely loved it. I just know that some people will not understand it and it won't agree with their reading taste. So definitely take that into consideration before picking this book up. But if you are like me and you enjoy reading fantasy and things that are just totally out of this world, Gideon the Ninth is my favorite book of the year so far, and I highly suggest reading it. So I did give it a 5 stars, although it could have been like a 4.5 star just for that element where I kept feeling confused about the characters and having to kind of refer back to the little area in the front that just kind of tells you like the houses and the characters in those houses, the cast of characters. It does get a little confusing, and some of the people's names are very similar, so it was kind of hard to, you know, separate people and know who was talking when they were talking and who was whatever when they were whatever. But other than that, 5 out of 5 stars. I really, really freaking love this book, and I could just go on and on, but I don't want to give you guys any spoilers. You're gonna love it. If you're like me and you like the same books as I do, Gideon the Ninth is for you. Ooh, I rhymed. That was good. Next up, I have here Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson, and this was a fun little book. I did not expect to enjoy this book as much as I did, and I actually picked up the second book because I can't wait to get into it. This was just fun. That's all I can really say. It's definitely similar to like Sherlock Holmesy mysteries, and the main character is obsessed with Sherlock Holmes and those stories, so it's pretty cool. Yeah, so I just really enjoyed it, and the fact of that it was like a school setting, almost like a boarding school setting for kids that have like these special, I don't want to say abilities, but these special talents that they want to study and that they want to perfect, and they know that's what they want to do for the rest of their lives. The main character, Stevie, she applies to the school and she gets in, and she gets there and there's like, she wants to solve this murder that happened back in like the early 1900s that happened at Ellingham Academy, and she thinks she's the one who could solve this murder. But along her, you know, doing her research for that, someone in her friend group gets murdered, and they need to figure out who murdered the friend in that group. So it's pretty interesting. It's fun. That's just like a quick little synopsis about what it's about. But if you're looking for a quick summer read and something that has a little mystery elements to it, Truly Devious is a really fun book, and I highly recommend it. So I gave this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Next up I have here The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. I finally finished this book, and I hated it. I know I'm gonna get a lot of dislikes on this video for saying that, but how do you guys love this book? Like, what is there to love about it? I mean, the ending was okay, but there's a lot of bullying in here. There's a lot of things that are just not okay, and all the characters I hate. So, like, I just don't know. I mean, I heard The Wicked King, it gets so much better, but honestly, like, there's really nothing, no substance to this for me at all. And Holly Black's writing is great. It's just the story was like, this is not what I want to read. And fairies are very cruel, which I like reading fairies, and I know the whole thing that they are cruel, but it was just like downright bullying and like really mean shit that went on in this book, and I just was afraid to turn the page sometimes. I read horror, but I feel like this was more horrifying to me than anything, just for like how mean people were. I'd rather read a ghost story where a ghost is pestering somebody to like lose their mind than read bullying in this book. So I give this a 2 out of 5 star, and I am so sorry for that if this is your favorite book, if this is your favorite series, but I just don't see myself finishing this series at all because I just didn't enjoy the first book, and I don't know if I want to continue. So check back in a later date if I change my mind like I did about Cassandra Clare's books, but I just didn't go with the hype with this one. I did not like it, and that's just my opinion. So I'm sorry if I offend anybody, if this is their like favorite book of all time, but it's not for me, and that's that. Next up I have here Small Town Hearts by Lily Vale, and I read this for Summerathon, and it was a great book to read for Summerathon. I did give it like a 2.75 star because it was quite boring towards the middle, and it was like a summer romance type book in a small town, quite diverse cast. The main character was struggling with herself, and it was like a coming of age type story. It was cute, but it's just nothing to really brag about. And it was okay. Like, I just found myself halfway through like wanting to DNF it because I kind of just saw how the story was going, and I just didn't want to waste my time anymore. So it was okay. It was cute. If you want something light and fluffy, I recommend it. Something totally like mindless to read, but I don't know. I think I'm gonna unhaul this now. I'm done with it. Next up I have here The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren, and I loved this book. This book was hilarious. I buddy read this with Allie Corbier Books, and we were just cracking up the entire time. I just love the writing in this, and it was totally swoon-worthy. Ethan was so hot, and you didn't want to like him in the beginning, but you just totally fall in love. That's just how it is. And even the main character, Olive, she was just so funny and so relatable. I couldn't put this book down. Basically, I'm sure a lot of you guys know what this book is about because it is buzzing around Booktube a lot lately, but it's about a girl, Olive, her sister is getting married, and at the wedding, everybody gets food poisoning from the seafood buffet, but Olive and Ethan is the best man, and Ethan doesn't like to eat at buffets. He thinks they're completely disgusting and full of germs, and he is right about that. And Olive is allergic to seafood, so she didn't touch the seafood buffet. So during this wedding, everyone is just falling ill, and it is a complete massacre of vomit everywhere, and it's hilariously written. If you are triggered by vomit by any way, don't pick this book up, but I found it, like, not hilarious, but the way it was described, it was pretty freaking disgusting, but funny. So yeah, I really, really love this. Olive and Ethan, since they're the ones who survived this plague that happened to everybody at the wedding, Olive's sister tells her to just take the honeymoon that she has, because her and her now husband are both sick and are not going to be able to make the honeymoon nor reschedule the honeymoon at all, because it was something that they won. It was like a giveaway type vacation, and there's just no way of canceling or moving it around. They have to leave the following day. So because Olive and her sister are twins, Olive looks like her sister, she could totally go on this trip, no problems at all. Olive was so excited, even though she didn't want to take the trip at first, but Ethan said that he was going to take the trip, and now the both of them are arguing about who's going to go on the trip. Ends up being they just totally compromise with each other, even though they hate each other, and they decide to go on this honeymoon together because it's a trip of a lifetime, and they'll never get that back. This book is just total, it's like a hate to love, fake marriage, fake dating, total tropey book, but it is so, so good. It is so well written, and even the things that happen to them along the way on this trip, you can kind of see them coming, and it's just funny and coincidental, but it just all flows so, so well together. I highly recommend this book for the summer, so if you're still working on a summer TBR, make sure you pick up The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. It's hilarious, and I hope they turn it into a movie, because it will be a great movie. And like I said before, I think I said before, 5 out of 5 stars. The next book that I finished is These Witches Don't Burn by Isabel Sterling. Now this book was interesting. I really freaking hated it. It was just not good by any means for me. I mean, it had a great diverse cast. I didn't understand where the story was going, and I read so much of it, and I don't know what I read. It's just words on a page. It's quite boring. I'm wondering if the book was just aimed for a younger age, and I just didn't expect that, so I didn't really understand the way it was written. I don't really know, but all I know is that I did not like this book, and I DNF'd it about 80% in. I just didn't like it, and I feel like I sound so hateful towards this book, but the cover does not go with the story. And when books covers don't really go with the story, it kind of just pisses me off. So that's another reason why I'm like upset about it. I just didn't enjoy it. And it was about Salem, and I was really looking forward to, reading a story about Salem, Massachusetts, one of the places that I love to visit that I just wish I lived in. I was excited to read this book, but it was just so not well thought out. I gave this book a 2 out of 5 stars. The next I have here, All the Missing Girls by Megan Miranda. I finally got to this book, and I am so, so happy that I did. This is the type of thriller that you either hate it or you love it. There's really no in between for a story like this because of how it is written. The way that it is written sequentially, it is told backwards. So you get a little bit of the story at present day in the beginning, and then it just goes into reverse, and we just go from day 15 to day 1. You kind of have to just piece the story together yourself as you're going. So by day 5, you'll remember something that happened on day 10 and just kind of piece it all together. So this is the type of book that you kind of just have to work at a little bit. I really enjoyed that aspect of it because I felt really involved in the story. And not for nothing, the twist towards the end around day 4, that was pretty freaking unexpected. Some people feel that they can expect this type of story by knowing what they know. I also felt like I saw the reasons why people did not like this book as I was reading it, but I enjoyed it. So I highly recommend reading this book and check it out for yourself. Make your own opinion for it because I absolutely loved it. But also the title kind of lies a little bit. It says All the Missing Girls, but it's actually only about 2 missing girls, one from a decade ago and one from present day. Just to let you guys know. So the title kind of lies a little bit, but it does, you know, the Ferris wheel and all of that is relevant to the story. I really enjoyed the aspect of the carnival in this book. Pretty cool. And also the main character is just kind of from day 15 to day 1, like she's kind of just losing her place. And there's so many holes in the story because of her telling the story. And then you're going back in time through a decade ago, her friend who she had lost, who had disappeared, you're piecing together the stuff that happened in the past. So there are timeline jumps too in here that some people can get confused about as well, because when you're reading it, you're like, oh, this is from 10 years ago, this is not present day. So it does jump a little bit like that. They don't warn you about the jump, they just put like a chapter break in there. You just kind of have to figure it out on your own. But I like mysteries like that to a certain extent. So I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. I did not hate it. I thought it was really good, and this is kind of what I needed right now. So highly, highly recommend this thriller for the summer. It definitely is a great thriller to read for the summer because it's quickly paced. Although it is quite large, it's almost 400 pages, but it does go pretty freaking fast. So I highly suggest you read this if you haven't read anything from Megan Miranda before, and I am looking forward to picking up more of her books. Lastly, I have here The Dead Zone by Stephen King. This was the May and June pick for the Constantly Reading Book Club that I host, and I really enjoyed this book. This is another one of his like most underrated books that he's written that is not that popular. I know that they turned it into a TV show, I believe, back in the day, but oh my goodness, I really enjoyed this. It was quite slow in the beginning, so I had a tough time getting into it, but I decided to download the audiobook for it because it is narrated by James Franco, who I love, which I know a lot of people don't love him, but I'm so attracted to him. I love him. So he narrated the story, so I got to listen to him telling the story, and it was pretty cool. I highly suggest it. The Dead Zone is about a guy named Johnny Smith. Now, when he was 6 years old, he had a horrifying ice skating accident where he had a head trauma, and ever since then, things have not been the same for him. He would always get these terrible hunches that something was going to happen. Now, come the future, Johnny is now in a cab going home from I believe a fair or something like that, and he's going home and someone crashes into the cab. Someone who was drunk crashes into the cab and sends Johnny into a coma. Now, in this coma, for Johnny, time isn't really passing like it is for the people around him. His girlfriend gets married to someone else, and his family has moved on, and he wakes up 4.5 years later wondering what the heck happened. It also heightened his ability to tell the future, to just see things that are going to happen before they happen. The nurse that was taking care of him, he saw that her house was on fire, and he told her, you need to go home right now because her house was on fire. So it was just coming so naturally to him. So this book was really, really cool. I like reading books about like telling the future and seeing like having a main character that could tell the future. So this was a really cool Stephen King book to read. I didn't realize that this book was about that. So I really enjoyed this. It's quite long. So like all his books, you know, it's a slow build, it's a slow story, but if you really want to get absorbed into one of Stephen King's worlds, this is a great book to start with because it does have different elements to it, and it is one of like the shorter books of his. I give this a 4 out of 5 star. I really enjoyed it, and yeah, that's all I have to say about it. So that's my June wrap up. That is all I have for you guys today, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe down below if you have not already, and I'll be talking to you guys soon. Bye!